Hello there, this is Kasano. We all recognize Toyota cars today. But did you know that Toyota's story didn't begin with cars? It started with a loom and one visionary inventor. The father and the son, Sakichi and Kiichiro Toyota. Sakichi Toyota was born in 1867 in Shizuoka, Japan. It was the year Japan restored imperial rule and began its journey into modernization under the new Meiji government. Sakichi grew up in a cotton-producing region, where his mother worked tirelessly, farming by day and weaving by night. Seeing her hardship, he was determined to invent a loom that could ease her burden. His first creation was a hand-powered wooden loom. Then he went on to develop Japan's very first power loom. This passion for invention would become a Toyota family legacy. At the time, Japan's cotton industry was booming. Toyota's automatic looms stood out for producing consistently high-quality fabric, earning recognition even overseas. Sakichi's son, Kiichiro Toyota, was born in 1894. He excelled in his studies and entered Tokyo Imperial University, Japan's most prestigious school. In 1922, he traveled to the US to study advanced loom technologies. Economic decline and the changing cotton industry. After World War I ended in 1918, Japan's once thriving cotton industry fell into a deep recession. Then, in 1923, the Great Kanto earthquake struck Tokyo, killing over 105,000 people and devastating the city. Kiichiro Toyota was in Tokyo when it happened. Tokyo's railway system was severely damaged. The government concluded that recovery would take too long and turned to motor vehicles instead, slashing automobile import tariffs. As a result, trucks played a key role in the disaster recovery efforts. Before the earthquake, cars were considered luxury items in Japan. But the disaster marked a turning point. Automobiles were now seen as essential tools. Before the quake, Japan had about 10,000 passenger cars and just 2,100 trucks. That number soon exploded, surpassing 100,000 vehicles in no time. With demand for automobiles surging, Ford established Ford Japan just a year after the quake. General Motors followed, founding GM Japan in 1927. At this point, Japan's auto market was essentially dominated by these two American giants. But the downturn didn't end there. The 1927 financial panic and the 1929 global Great Depression kept Japan's cotton industry in decline. Factories cut hours, lowered wages, and laid off workers, yet the economy continued to slide. Even Toyota was forced to make staff cuts. A bold step into the auto industry. Seeing the industry's decline firsthand, Kiichiro Toyota began exploring diversification, specifically car manufacturing. In 1933, he created a dedicated automotive division within the company. To truly understand cars, Kiichiro learned to drive by riding motorcycles and a tiny German car, the Hanomag 3. Yes, at the time he decided to enter the car industry, he didn't even know how to drive. With Japan's auto industry still in its infancy, Kiichiro aimed to build prototype cars using Corolla Mark II interchangeable parts from Ford and Chevrolet. They bought cars, disassembled them, and sketched every part, measuring and documenting every detail. They even analyzed materials, strength, and hardness. Then they identified domestic suppliers who could make each component. For the body design, they took inspiration from the sleek Chrysler DeSoto. But building it as designed would take over a year and a half. That was too long, so they crafted it by hand using hammered sheet metal instead. In less than 2 years, the prototype was ready. Some internal parts still used original Chevrolet components, but the car was Toyota's own. The G1 truck, prototype and launch. In July 1934, while still working on passenger cars, Kiichiro received a government request. The Ministry of Commerce and the Army wanted trucks and buses, and fast. They gave Toyota just 6 months to deliver a prototype. Toyota combined the strengths of Ford and Chevrolet. The chassis was Ford-based, the engine Chevrolet-inspired. The frame and rear axle were Ford-style, the front axle was Chevrolet-style. For parts they couldn't develop in time, they used commercial replacements. The G1 prototype was completed successfully. It was unveiled in November 1935 and went on sale the following month. For a first truck, it looked remarkably capable. The birth of Toyota's sales network. Around this time, the Japanese government introduced a game-changing regulation. Auto manufacturing now required a license, and only companies with majority Japanese ownership could apply. This move made it nearly impossible for Ford Japan and GM Japan to continue. Former GM sales staff joined Toyota and helped launch its very own sales department. This was the beginning of what became known in Japan as Toyota the Master of Sales. In 1936, Toyota held a grand exhibition to celebrate its growing production. They showcased 15 vehicles, passenger cars, convertibles, trucks, bus chassis, fire engines, military transports, and more. Achieving this in just 3 years was truly remarkable. During the exhibition, the government officially granted auto production licenses to both Nissan and Toyota. But there was a catch. Within 2 years, they had to use domestically made parts. This was to reduce the growing trade deficit caused by imported components. With global tensions rising, establishing a self-sufficient domestic auto industry became a national priority for economic and military security alike. If it doesn't exist, make it yourself. At the time, one of the biggest challenges in car manufacturing was the lack of suitable steel. High-quality steel was being produced for ships and aircraft. But steel for automobiles simply didn't exist in Japan, and no suppliers were willing to develop it. So Kiichiro Toyota decided to build a steel mill himself. If no one else would do it, Toyota would. He also instructed his team, "Let's try to build everything related to the automobile on our own." As a result, Toyota began producing not only metal parts, but tires, tubes, fan belts, engine mounts, even brake fluid. It was a very Toyota approach, build it yourself from the ground up. Toyota during World War II. In 1935, when Toyota released the G1 truck, Japan still imported 25% of its steel from the United States. As World War II approached, material shortages worsened. Once full economic controls were imposed, Japan was flooded with new regulations. Civilian car production was officially banned. In 1944, just a year before the war ended, Toyota was designated a military contractor and placed under the Ministry of Munitions. On August 14, 1945, the day before Japan surrendered, Toyota's main factory was bombed. About 1/4 of the plant was destroyed. Had the war ended just 1 day sooner, it might have been spared. Post-war recovery and reinvention. Despite the devastation, the day after the war ended, Toyota's vice president addressed the surviving employees. Trucks will be essential for rebuilding Japan. Toyota has a duty to make and supply them. So let's begin again with that mission. But from 9,500 employees before the war, only 3,700 remained. As a defeated nation, Japan faced the possibility of having car production banned altogether. So Toyota experimented with alternative businesses. Synthetic sweeteners, herbal medicine, soap, luxury toys, Western-style tableware, even farming dojo fish. Soon after, the Allied Occupation Authorities, GHQ, allowed Toyota to resume truck production. It was the company's lifeline as a car maker. Toyota was also contracted to repair U.S. military vehicles. They serviced around 300, mostly Chrysler Plymouths. This hands-on experience would later prove invaluable for their own car development. After a few years, GHQ's focus shifted from occupation to rebuilding a stable, independent Japan. In 1949, Joseph Dodge, president of Detroit Bank, arrived in Japan as a financial advisor. He introduced a policy package known as the Dodge Line. Its main goal was to halt hyperinflation by tightening the money supply. But while prices stabilized, industries were hit hard by a sudden cash shortage. Many companies went bankrupt. This became known as the Dodge Recession. Demand for cars plummeted. Steel prices surged by 32 to 37% due to deregulation, but the government kept car prices fixed, squeezing automakers into crisis. As expected, Toyota announced large-scale layoffs, triggering intense labor disputes. To overcome the crisis, labor and management came to an agreement. The union demanded that President Kiichiro Toyoda resign. In return, they accepted a 10% wage cut, on one condition: no further layoffs. Toyota's new beginnings. After resolving the labor conflict, Toyota executives traveled to the U.S., both to study the American auto industry and to negotiate a technology partnership with Ford. The deal nearly went through, but the outbreak of the Korean War brought it to a halt. Instead, Ford agreed to accept Toyota trainees. One of them was Eiji Toyoda, then a managing director. At the time, Ford was producing 8,000 cars a day. Toyota? Only 40. Still, Eiji said, "Japan has capable engineers and decent equipment, but our machine tools and materials are inferior. If we fix that, we can build cars as good as America's, at lower cost." It was the Korean War. To rapidly supply the military, U.S. forces turned to Japan's nearby industrial base. Toyota received an order for 4,679 military trucks. With price controls lifted, business boomed. Toyota upgraded aging machinery, and by 1956, monthly production surpassed 5,000 units. Still far from Ford's 8,000 a day, but a remarkable leap forward nonetheless. The passing of two founding figures. On March 27, 1952, Kiichiro Toyoda, founder of Toyota Motor Company, passed away. He had just been slated to return as president following the labor conflict. Just 2 months later, Risaburo Toyoda, Toyota's first president, also died at the age of 68. Shortly before his death, Risaburo reportedly said, "Whatever else, Toyota must build passenger cars." Ironically, he had once been the strongest opponent of Toyota entering the auto business. And yet his final message was, "Stop building just trucks, start making passenger cars." He may well have become Toyota's biggest supporter in the end. Japan's rapid economic growth. From 1955 to 1970, Japan entered a period of rapid economic growth. During these 15 years, the country's annual growth rate reached an astounding 15%. By 1969, Japan had become the world's second-largest economy in terms of GNP. Its economic scale had grown 4.4 times larger. The transformation from a war-torn country to an economic powerhouse reshaped the mindset of the Japanese people. As personal consumption soared, a hamikaru boom swept the country. In just 2 years, from 1965 to 1967, the number of vehicles in Japan jumped from 6.3 million to over 10 million. Cars became part of everyday life, affordable and accessible to all. Japan even overtook West Germany to become the world's second-largest automobile producer, surpassing 4 million units by 1968. Naturally, Toyota experienced massive growth as well. The beginning of Toyota exports. In the 1960s, Japanese carmakers, including Toyota, began focusing on exports. Toyota started in Asia, then expanded into Central and South America. At the time, most exports were in the form of knockdown kits. Toyota shipped sets of car parts that were assembled locally in the destination country. This approach matched the industrial policies of importing countries, which encouraged local production. Toyota sent knockdown kits to countries like Mexico, South Africa, Australia, Thailand, and the Philippines. Of course, not every venture went smoothly. For example, Toyota began exports to Mexico's Plant Leo in 1960, but had to withdraw 4 years later when the company went bankrupt. Still, Toyota steadily increased its export volumes. Breaking into Europe. Toyota's serious entry into Europe began in 1962 at the All Japan Motor Show. A Danish car importer visiting Japan saw the crown on display. Sensing its classic design would appeal to European tastes, he decided to acquire distribution rights for Denmark. Toyota held exhibitions in Denmark's 3 largest cities, and the response was overwhelmingly positive. The following year, 190 crowns were shipped to Denmark, marking the beginning of full-scale European exports. At the time, the US and Europe were already crowded with major automakers. But the unexpected success in Denmark opened new doors. From Denmark, Toyota expanded into the Netherlands, Sweden, and Norway. By 1966, it entered non-manufacturing countries like Belgium and Switzerland, then reached the UK, France, West Germany, and Portugal. Japanese cars faced disadvantages, long-distance shipping, and high import tariffs. But they came well-equipped, were highly reliable, and cheap to maintain, giving them growing appeal in competitive markets. The rocky road to the American market. If Toyota was to succeed globally, the US market was key. Toyota recognized this early and made its move to America in 1957. At the time, it was an ambitious and forward-looking decision. They sent 2 well-regarded models, the Crown and Crown Deluxe, to the US for testing. But when tested on American highways, the engine roared loudly and lost power. It simply didn't meet US performance standards. This wasn't surprising. Japan didn't even have a highway until 1965. High-speed driving was uncharted territory for Japanese engineers. Still, determined to plant a foothold in the US, Toyota founded its American subsidiary, Toyota Motor Sales, USA, Inc., in California. To sell cars in California, they needed approval from the Highway Patrol. But the Crown's headlights failed to meet brightness requirements. So they shipped Crowns without headlights and installed US-made GE lamps after arrival. The following year, 30 headlight-less Crown Deluxe cars were shipped to the US, marking the start of serious exports to America. Even so, quality issues persisted. It would take 2 more years to resolve them. But Toyota faced another challenge. To counter rising imports, US automakers launched their own compacts: Chevrolet Corvair, Ford Falcon, Chrysler Valiant. Imported car sales plummeted. Even Toyota's US dealers began favoring American compacts over Japanese imports. In December 1960, Toyota was forced to suspend Crown exports to the US. Toyota America shifted strategy. They scaled back operations and focused solely on the Land Cruiser, a vehicle that could turn a profit even at just 50 to 60 units a month. The move paid off. Land Cruiser sales skyrocketed from 249 units in 1961 to 2,595 in 1964, more than tenfold in just 4 years. In 1965, Toyota introduced the new Corolla, already a hit in Japan. An automatic version followed in 1966. That's when full-scale US exports resumed. 8 years after launching the US subsidiary, despite early missteps, Toyota finally earned recognition in America. Having learned from its earlier setbacks, Toyota approached the Corolla's US launch with a solid strategy. It featured a powerful 1,900 cubic centimeters engine, built for highway driving. At $1,860, its price sat perfectly between $2,000 American cars and $1,600 European rivals. And it came fully equipped. At the time, second cars were becoming popular in American households. The Corolla fit the role perfectly and was very well received. Thanks to the Corolla, US exports soared from around 4,000 units in 1964 to 26,000 in 1967. By 1966, the United States had become Toyota's largest overseas market. The real breakthrough came in 1968 with the export of the Corolla. That year, Toyota shipped 98,000 vehicles to the US, rising to 155,000 by 1969. Toyota became the second-largest import car brand in America. By 1970, US exports reached 216,000 units, and 404,000 the following year. In 1967, Toyota built a dedicated US headquarters, solidifying its base in the American market. Toyota's global exports expanded rapidly. In 1966, they surpassed 100,000 units worldwide. By 1968, 280,000. And by 1970, nearly 500,000. By then, half of all Toyota exports were heading to advanced auto markets like the US and Europe. To support this growth, Toyota built the Nagoya Toyota Port in Aichi Prefecture in 1967. The following year, its first dedicated export ship, the Daiichi Toyomaru, set sail. Land Cruiser. Let's now look at the birth of some of Toyota's most iconic models. First up, the Land Cruiser. In August 1950, 2 months after the outbreak of the Korean War, Toyota received a request from the US military and Japan's Reserve Police Force to develop a four-wheel drive Jeep-style truck. Having built 4 WD vehicles before the war, Toyota delivered a prototype in just 5 months. It was nicknamed the Toyota Jeep. However, Jeep was a registered trademark of Willis in the US. So Toyota renamed the vehicle first to the BJ and later to the Land Cruiser. To prove its capability, Toyota drove the Land Cruiser all the way up to the 6th station of Mount Fuji. The feat impressed nations with rugged terrain, from mountains to deserts. And export destinations and volumes grew rapidly. In 1955, Toyota exported to 14 countries and sold only 98 Land Cruisers. But just 1 year later, 518 units across 35 countries. By the following year, 2,502 units to 47 nations. Corolla. During Japan's economic boom, Toyota had introduced the Publica. But it didn't sell well, so they knew it was time for a new kind of mass-market car. They targeted the sweet spot between the 800 cubic centimeters Publica and the 1,500 cubic centimeters Corona. That car was the Corolla. The Corolla offered comfort, space, lightweight, and affordability. It even had bold features for the time, like a 4-speed transmission and floor-mounted shifter. Maintenance was a priority, too. Launched just before the 1966 Tokyo Motor Show, the Corolla was an instant success. It began as a 2-door sedan, but soon expanded to include a 4-door and light van model. Eventually, the Corolla series offered 30 different versions for the Japanese market alone. Sales soared over 10,000 units just a year after launch. 167,000 by 1968 and 248,000 by 1969. Corolla became the undisputed king of Japan's compact car market. Corona Mark II US model, Cressida. In 1968, Toyota introduced the Corona Mark II, a step above the original Corona. It came in 20 variations for Japan and 28 for overseas. And it was a major hit. 2000 GT. After the 1963 Japan Grand Prix, motorsports boomed. Fans wanted real performance cars. Toyota responded with the 2000 GT. A sleek Grand Tourer that handled city streets and highways with ease. And with a few tweaks, it could hold its own on the racetrack. Century. In 1967, Toyota released the Century, the pinnacle of Japanese luxury cars. It featured a stately design and a golden phoenix crest on the grille, a symbol of prestige and craftsmanship. Since 2008, it has been known as the official car of the Emperor of Japan. Celica. As cars became a part of daily life in Japan, buyers began wanting models tailored to their lifestyle. Toyota strengthened its small car lineup, while the Celica was Japan's take on the American-style specialty car. Though their styles differed, both cars shared major components, allowing for efficient, streamlined production. Hilux US model, pickup/truck/Tacoma. In 1968, the Hilux debuted a stylish 1-ton pickup. It appealed to younger buyers and became a key export product. So, what did you think? Today, we explored the fascinating history of Toyota. Even now, Toyota continues to innovate with hydrogen tech EVs. and the futuristic woven city being built in Shizuoka. Toyota is evolving from carmaker to mobility pioneer. From looms to cars, and now to cities. From let's build better cars to let's build a better society. Toyota's journey isn't just corporate history. It's the story of Japanese innovation and ambition. What are your thoughts? Let us know in the comments below. Have a topic you want us to cover? Feel free to request it. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, it really helps us out.